Hello everyone, I'm going to show you 2 ways to create an MLA paper using Google Docs. So right now I'm in Google Drive. You can see it has a little drive icon, and I'm actually going to go to Google Docs for this. So you could just search Google Docs, or you could type in docs.google.com. So I'm going to click here, and then we automatically want to usually just click this blank button. Don't do that. For this, you're actually going to look for what says Report MLA. Now, if you don't see it on this top bar like I have here, I believe you can search using the search bar, and it should then appear. But we're going to click Report MLA because it is here. So you'll notice that it makes a new document for us. This comes up with document add-ons, Easy Bib, which we're not actually going to use because sometimes it can be a little misleading or inaccurate. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call this report. Keep in mind when you share this with me, I can see the title, so you want to call it something that will make sense. So I will say Practice MLA Paper. Okay, now I'm going to click on the body of the paper again. And it has a bunch of information up here that I'm just going to go ahead and fill out. Before I do that, I just want to show you, if you scroll down using the scroll bar here, that at the very last page it has something called the Works Cited. So it's already set up for you, although all of the information is fake and in Latin, and your papers should be in English. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but just know that that's down there and ready for you. So right now I'm going to put in my name, my full name, and then I would write my actual last name. Professor name for all of my students, that will be me, but I will use a fictional character instead. And then your subject name is whatever class you're writing for. So it would most likely be English 12 or English 11. In our case, since I'm already going with a fictional professor, I will call it a fictional subject. The date. In MLA format, your date is going to be a little bit strange. It's going to be the number of the day, the month, and then the year. You would usually like this to say the due date. So let's say that the first draft of your paper is due April 13th, just for argument's sake. You're going to put the day that it's due, although if you look at my calendar down here, it is actually March 30th. The title of your report is whatever you are writing about. And if you make a typo, it even comes up with some suggestions. On the top of the page, you're going to see a page number. Fun thing, if you scroll to the second page, your page number already updates to 2. So you don't want to delete that. It's already set up so that your page number will update with every page. You do want to put your last name, though, in that header. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to write whatever my real last name is and put a space. So you'll see that there's a space here, my last name, and then the page number. Now, if you look at the body of your paper, you'll see that it's in Latin and not at all related to my topic. So I will type something that is related. I also have a section header here. And if you scroll down, you see some more MLA paper formatting things set up. So here's a block quote. We're actually not going to use too many block quotes. Therefore, if you have a quote that goes over 4 lines, so they're for longer quotes. But we don't necessarily need this, so we're going to go ahead and delete what we have. But I'm going to keep the Works Cited because that is important. So when this template was created, and also when I deleted the pages, you have the body of your paper and the Works Cited right next to each other. You never want that to happen. You always want your Works Cited to be on a different page. So what a lot of students will do is just enter until you get to the next page, which is okay if you don't ever write anything above that. But if I write something like up here, and I enter, now this is on the same page and that's not proper formatting. So instead of having to go and enter differently every time we type something new, we're going to insert a page break. So you just go to this top ribbon. I'm going to click on Insert. I'm going to come down here to Break, and I'm going to click Page Break. And now we'll always be on a separate page. Now, when we do a Works Cited page, you always want certain information in a certain order. So you want to have your author's last name, comma, first name. You want to have the title of whatever piece or work you're pulling from. You want to have the date, and then you used to need the format, but we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to go to one of my favorite sites, Purdue OWL. Stands for Online Writing Lab. And they have an MLA formatting and style guide. I uploaded for my students something that's a little more accessible for you, but just so you know, when you do a Works Cited page, you always want to have these pieces of information in this order: the author, the title, the container, other contributors, version, the number, publisher, publication date, and location. So if I'm using the author of an article, let's say that I'm looking up the CDC 1918 flu, and I want to use this article history. So I'm going to look for all of those pieces of information. Now, I have that memorized because I've done a lot of Works Cited, but when you're looking through this, you're going to need to say, okay, who's my author? And then you'll look on this page and you'll find an author. If there's no author, this is probably written by an organization. So you could either leave that blank, or you could use the organization as your author. We'll just leave that blank. So then I'm going to go and I'm looking for the next thing, the title of the source. So that's the article. So it's going to be 1918 Pandemic H1N1 Virus. So what I can do is I can actually copy that, put it in my Works Cited, paste it, and then I'm going to put a set of quotations around it and a period. Now I'm going to go back to my formatting guide. I need the title of the container. The container is whatever holds the smaller work, the smaller piece of information. So in this case, it's going to be the CDC website, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Okay. And I'm going to put that in italics. Now I'm looking for my next thing. So we have other contributors. That would be if there were an editor for something, a translator, anything like that. Sometimes articles that are more academic are written with multiple authors. Version, that would be if something was updated. Number would usually be for a magazine or a periodical. The publisher is the next thing that most sources will have. Oh, and you should also note, after all of these pieces of information, there's a punctuation mark. So after author, there's a period. After title of the source, there's a period. After title of container, there's a comma. That punctuation should be the punctuation you use in your Works Cited. So I'm actually going to go back here, and I noticed that after the container, there was a comma. So I'm going to put a comma instead of a period. That way I'm following MLA guidelines. Okay, so I'm looking for the publisher. I go back to this tab, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. That's usually where your publisher information is. Sometimes there's a little copyright circle on here. Sometimes you can use different pieces of information as long as you give your reader at least a general idea of where this source is coming from. So I'm actually going to use U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as my publisher. So I'm going to again copy that, and I'm going to paste this into here. Now you'll notice the fonts are all different. I'm going to change that in a minute. So I have my publisher. I'm going to put a comma after that. I'm going to look for the next thing, which is the publication date. This says page was last reviewed the 20th of March, 2019. So I'm going to copy that, put it on my Works Cited. Remember when we did the date for the page itself, I said MLA dates were always in a little bit of an odd format. So it's going to be 20 March 2019. I'm looking back for my punctuation. It's going to be a comma. And then we have something called the location on here. Your location is actually the link to a website or a YouTube video or whatever you're using as your source. So I'm going to just go ahead here and copy that link. And I'm going to paste it here and put a period because my MLA guide tells me that's what I need at the end. Now, this is a hyperlink, so we actually don't want that. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm looking at link, and I want it to go away, so I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to click on it, and here you see this little, it looks like a paper clip with a line through it. I'm going to click that, and as you can see, it says remove link, and it removes the link. So I want this to all be in Times New Roman, 12-point font. So I am going to go up here to my toolbar and make sure that it says Times New Roman, 12-point font. And for my Works Cited page, I always need a specific formatting. So I'm first making sure that I have everything lined up with the left margin of the page. I notice that this looks a little different as well, so I'm going to remove this link. And there's a gray background here, so I'm actually going to highlight it, and I'm going to click on the little highlighter, and I'm going to click None as my color. So if you look at the citations that they gave you here, you're going to see on the second line that there is an indent. So we want that same indent to follow through. So you're going to highlight your citation. You are going to go to, I believe it's Format, Align and Indent, and then we're going to go to Indentation Options. So that's Format, Align and Indent, Indentation Options. Down here it says Special Indent. There's a drop-down menu that I'm going to click, and I'm going to click on Hanging. And I want this to say 0.5, and then I hit Apply. And there you go. You can see that it has the indent already done on here. So that is all set and all ready to go. And you can also see that my page number has updated. Okay, now, if you've already created a document and you want to know how do you get it to be this format without a template, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So I'm just going to create a paper completely from scratch. So I'm going to go to Create, Google Docs, and this time I'm just going to hit on Docs. So now I've made a blank document. I'm going to call this Report from Scratch. And I'm actually going to make a separate video to show you how to do that. Hope that helped.